Group collaboration often involves creating a document together, getting agreement on language, wordsmithing, finding the right phrases, adding things, subtracting things, trying to come up with a final document. We've all been there. That's what was involved in the very high-stakes writing and getting approval for the Declaration of Independence. It all began on June 11, 1776, with the appointment of a 5-person committee to draft the Declaration. As the committee began working, Thomas Jefferson took on the bulk of the writing, and as history shows, his closest confidant in that process was Benjamin Franklin. And we have, as they worked together and Franklin reviewed what Jefferson was writing, we have the drafts of the Declaration as it unfolded, with the corrections that were made, addition, deletions, word changes, until the document was ready in Jefferson's view, with Franklin's support, to submit to the Continental Congress on June 28, 1776. The Continental Congress then spent 2 days making revisions, including cutting by more than half the final 5 paragraphs of the Declaration. Jefferson was distraught. He recalled in 1818, in writing his recollections of that process, quote, "I was sitting by Dr. Franklin, who perceived that I was not insensible to these mutilations." His word for the editing the Continental Congress was doing of the document. To show his empathy for what Jefferson was feeling, Franklin told him, quote, "I have made it a rule, whenever in my power, to avoid becoming the draftsman of papers to be reviewed by a public body." But there they were, with Continental Congress reviewing the draft of the Declaration of Independence. And so Ben Franklin then did what he had become famous for. He shared a story, a parable, that contained a lesson for Jefferson at that moment, and a lesson for all of us involved in writing and wordsmithing today. He told of being a journeyman printer when an apprentice hatter was about to open a shop for himself. And the young hatter's concern was to have a handsome signboard with a proper inscription. And so he wrote and created a sign that said, "John Thompson, hatter, makes and sells hats for ready money," and proudly showed it to a friend who said the word hatter was tautologous because followed by the words makes hats showed already that he was a hatter. And so he struck out the word hatter. John Thompson makes and sells hats for ready money. The next friend he showed it to observed that makes might as well be omitted because his customers would not care who made the hats as long as they were good hats. And so he struck out hatter and makes. Then the third person he showed it to thought that it was redundant and unnecessary to include the phrase for ready money because it was a shop and everyone who purchased expected to pay. And so he struck out for ready money. And the sign now said John Thompson sells hats. The final reviewer said nobody will expect to give them away. And so he struck out the word sells hats until his final sign was John Thompson with a picture of a hat. And so in that final Declaration of Independence, after the Congress had severely cut, especially the final paragraphs, it ended up with this statement, that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, and that as free and independent states they have the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And the famous final line, "And for the support of this declaration, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." And the Continental Congress, wordsmithing, and group collaboration gave us that document.